You are listening to Just Another Podcast. Contact us directly at justanotherpodcastlive@gmail.com. What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. This is a new episode of Just Another Podcast. We're excited that you decided to continue to listen, and so we got some good stuff for you tonight. And so let's just go ahead and jump into the conversation. I know it's been a little while since we've been on. So, Will, how's your week been so far? What's been going on with you?
My week has been good. Overall work has been going okay. Still working hard at this dissertation. The goal is to defend mid-March. Work is going well. Today, I treated myself when I got a massage. But the first topic I actually want to bring up is, when you receive notifications from people in your past that you thought you had closed that bridge. And so I kind of want to just attack that. So something happened today. As you know, Daryl, I used to work for an individual that it just was not the healthiest place for me. And, without putting too much words and too much background into it, it was just a really toxic environment that, I had to eventually I mustered up enough courage to leave and understood that, I made the right decision. So today, as I'm literally like folding clothes, doing laundry, it's Sunday, so just getting ready for the week, I'm frequently checking my email, and I see that I have an email from this particular individual. And the email is about, congratulations on all the great things you've been doing. But I just wanted to ask if you wanted to be added to this thing that we were working on that we're just finishing. I'm just thinking to myself, like, first and foremost, you and I didn't end on good terms. So what makes you think that, or what gives you the audacity that you can contact me?
Yeah. And so that's a pretty interesting thing. I think a lot of times, whether it's personal or professional, some people don't know where those limits lie. Right.
Exactly.
And so that's always something. Do you think that's more of an issue of lack of closure or misunderstanding or entitlement? Kind of where do you think that attitude comes from?
I think for especially this particular situation, it's entitlement, right? Because it's one of those situations where you think so highly of yourself, and even though you majorly messed up, you don't realize that you did, and you think again, your ego has led you to believe that you never did anything wrong. So instead of like reaching out and saying, I realized what I did, I realized, I didn't put my best foot forward. I don't want you to think this way of me, and like try to actually have conversation. You just throw it under the bridge like it never happened. And so for me, like it's one of those situations that I don't know if I'm more annoyed that you thought you had like you believe that it was just cool for you to send me this piece of communication, or if I'm even more mad at myself for putting in as much energy as I put in throughout this day, just like thinking through, like, yo, did you really think this was cool? So I don't know. I think for me, it was just one of those situations that, like, now I've had a couple hours to think through it. And although it is in theory a good opportunity, but in practice and how it would benefit me and, just for my overall emotional intelligence, emotional ability, it's just, I've decided I'm just gonna reach back out to that individual and say, thank you for the thought, but I'm okay.
Definitely. And to kind of put it on like a lighter note, I know like sometimes we use crazy tactics to avoid tough conversations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I've known like good news always can, well, sometimes can break the ice, right? And so in
Mm-hmm.
your situation it didn't work, but I know I found myself in situations where you get in an argument, and you're trying to figure out how how to get out of it, how to break the silence. And sometimes it's just something simple like, "Are you
Mm-hmm.
hungry?" You know what I'm saying? Like, you want something to eat?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So sometimes that ice. Sometimes good news can break the ice, right? You,
Yeah,
but other,
I guess, man, this situation, there's
yo,
nothing to.
but see, I think yours is extreme though. I think your
Yeah,
situation is
yeah,
definitely more extreme than the average day argument for sure.
yeah, yeah. No, that's true.
Yeah.
But on a brighter note, life is good. I'm blessed. God has continued to bestow blessings on top of me, and so I'm just, yeah, I really have no complaints.
Yeah, man. I mean, you getting massages during the pandemic. You know what I'm saying? Last
Hey, son,
episode,
hey, son,
we,
you gotta put my business out like that.
you already told the people. So last
Yeah.
episode, we went down 2020. We talked about everything that's happened in 2020, but in 2021, this man is living his best life. He getting massages and stuff. You
Hey,
know what I'm
son,
saying? So
I work.
is that a daily thing? How often you getting those massages?
So it's actually a monthly thing, and it's one. I thought to myself, like, I work really hard
Mhm.
between my full time job, between school, between the various different podcasts that I run or I co-host, between family. Like, I do a lot, and so, like, I should have one thing that I can look forward to every month that is just relaxing. And a couple years back, my lovely partner and I found this massage parlor in downtown Philadelphia, and they're just phenomenal. The best 90 minutes of your life. I'm talking about, like, the way those women touch you, and not even in a sexual way, but listen, it's cool. Me and my baby, we talk about this, but the way they massage you, boy, whew, definitely much needed. So I definitely make it a monthly thing.
Yeah, and that brings up a good, interesting topic because I know we kind of refer to our work ethic a lot, and it's crazy because we end up putting ourselves in position where we struggle to celebrate and reward the success that
Mm.
we've accomplished, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know for me, I just bought a new truck. You know, it was my birthday, and I don't want to put my personal business out in the streets. But I'm doing well, right? So for those of you who've been listening, I'm a pharmacist, so I started my first job out of residency. Life is better than it used to be.
Than it ever
But
has been.
than it ever has been, right? But despite that success, I found it tough to, to do things for myself, even though I'm at a place where I can comfortably do it. And mind you, I was driving, actually still have it, 2010 Honda Accord.
Mm-hmm.
The floor, you can about see the ground. A lot of y'all not. You move the mat, you can see the ground. Sometimes when it rains and you push the brake, a little water get on your leg. All the doors don't lock. A lot of you not. The front driver door and the back passenger side don't lock with the key. You know what I'm saying? Like, the car is horrible on oil. I got a 5-gallon 5W20 thing of oil in the back. But yet it's like almost like I felt like, I don't know if it's like thinking of trying to be humble or trying, not knowing if that's something you should do.
Mm-hmm.
But I struggled. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? So for you, have you ever had any instances like that where there was something you actually needed, but you
Mm.
struggle to get it, even though you were at a place you can get it?
Yeah, I mean, same situation. Like, I still have my 2010 Ford Fusion parked outside. I mean, I can't even turn it on because it's been off for so long. But I think too, I think, it's one of those situations that we come from a place of not having, right? So we don't come from a place of excess. So for us, it's always been that ideology that, you have to work hard, and, you, like, me, like, I am, and anybody that knows me well will tell you, Will is as frugal as they come. Will not spend $1 unless he absolutely has to. And, for a very long time, I prescribed to that. For a very long time, I didn't treat myself like literally from 2016 to to like 20, almost 2020. No, like to like 2019. Like I didn't take a vacation. And I'm not talking about like fly somewhere. No, like I was working probably 7 days a week. If it wasn't like my full-time job, it was me driving for Lyft trying to make some extra money. It was me coaching little league trying to make some extra money. And so I think for us, like we've just come from a deficit mentality for so long that when we are now at a place where it's like, all right, you can spend that extra 60, $70 and get a massage, and that's not gonna break your budget. You can like literally I left the massage and want to spend $40 on a dumbbell, right? Because I'm building my gym, right? Did I need to buy that dumbbell today? No. Did that was that dumbbell part of my financial plan for this month? No. But is it going to help me reach my fitness goals? Is it going to help me reach my mental wellness goals? Yeah. And so like I realized like that's okay. So I think for us, and I think this is an interesting point too, because like during the interview I conducted a while back, I remember one of my participants said something that really stuck with me, and she was like, success to me is such a weird, I don't know how to define it, because I come from a place where you're only successful when you've done something notably enough to put on your resume to say that you've been successful, right? And I think it's interesting, just take that a bit further. For a lot of us, we don't consider like whether it's graduating with whatever degree it is that we're vying for, whether it's landing that job that we've always wanted, whether it's buying that home that we've ever wanted, whether it's meeting that special somebody that you've always vied for. For us, there's always another ladder. And so it's very difficult for people that are ingrained with that mindset of wanting to be quote unquote successful to stop and, be like, well, like I have done pretty well for myself. And it really took me the other day, as I was laying on the couch. My fiance called me upstairs to come to bed. It was like 2 a.m. in the morning. And as I'm walking up the stairs, I just stopped for a second. I was like, yo, this is mine. Like, I purchased this home. I have 3 floors in my home, right? And so like that's something that I just have to stop for a moment and take in. I know that's a long way to answer your question, but like I don't know. I think just for certain people, like the idea of like treating yourself, or the idea of doing something nice for yourself, is so foreign to us because we come from such a deficit mind frame that we're not really able to indulge.
Yeah, yeah. So there's an interesting book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, and he kind of talks about the upper limit problem, right? Where
Mm,
people put this cap on themselves based on beliefs and situations that may not even pertain to them, right? And so you
mm-hmm,
kind of talked about just the lack of, right?
mm-hmm,
Just the fear of running out, how we grew up. I grew up, I had in my home, I had 3 brothers and a sister, so 5 kids. Just, everybody, it's just a lot going on, right?
mm-hmm,
And so I think that's an interesting point because I know for me, it's kind of like I'm hitting phases of my life that I've
mm-hmm,
never seen hit,
mm-hmm.
right? And so
not
we're
not even just the fact that you're hitting phases of life that you've never seen yourself hitting. You're hitting phases of your life that you've never seen nobody else in your family hitting. So
right.
let's talk about that. Like that's the deeper part.
Yeah, and that's the scary thing, right? So you got to think so first, education wise, right? So it's funny, shout out to my mom. I was actually the second person in my family to get a doctorate degree. So my mom's a nurse. She got her doctorate degree maybe like a few months before I did. She
Mm.
snuck in to the last second and beat me. So shout out to my mom. But there are
Gotta love the sharing.
so many people that I've seen in my life who
Mm-hmm.
haven't reached certain goals that I'm
Mm-hmm.
achieving now. And it's scary, right? So we talk about home ownership. There are
Mm-hmm.
so many people in our families and our communities that never hit that goal,
Mm-hmm.
right? That for
Mm-hmm.
their whole life, they live in apartments or they live in rented spaces, and it's something that we're having to deal with now, realizing, okay, well, this game can be played a lot differently,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But not having those, so that's why I think it's important to have those professional networks. So like
Mm-hmm.
people like you and like our relationship is so valuable because
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things that we're learning in life that we may not necessarily easily be able to go home and get that
Mm-hmm.
information,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I'm in the process of buying a house. Hopefully everything will be finalized this summer. But
Mm-hmm.
it's like we're not even 30.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And so it's a huge blessing and it's an amazing thing, but it's scary because you like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know nobody who did this at my age. You know what I'm saying?
So to that point, I think back to this meme I saw the other day, and somebody had basically posted a meme of like Will Smith's home, and this is his home is huge. It sits on acres. Like we talk about like 15, 20 bedrooms, like 16, 17 bathrooms, basketball court, tennis court. Like you need a golf cart to drive around the property. Like that's how big it is. And the comment was, Will Smith telling everybody to stay home because of COVID, but look what his home looked like. And from that, I was like, yo, the jealousy, right? Because and I think too, like that's another aspect of it. As we climb and as we get to the heights that we get to, you can't bring everybody along. And for so many of us, that's so fundamentally hard to think about because like these your boys, these your homegirls, these the people that like you grew up with, these the people that you was buying 25 cent pouch sodas with at the corner store when you all were growing up. And now like you look at where you are in life, you look at where they're at in life, and it's like you want them to be at that same level, but everybody doesn't necessarily like get to that level. So Daryl, talk me through like, what has it been like, having to like aspiring for the dreams that you aspire for, but then also realizing that everybody that you want to come along the way might not necessarily be able to do so.
Yeah. So I think that's definitely a struggle for me, personally, because you want to see everybody make it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want everybody to get to the top. And one thing I've learned through the past few years is everybody don't want the same things,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so that's something like when you go to college and they present you this package, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people talk about the American dream, but when you get to college, they put it in a nice package for you,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you see these things that you want, and then you may go home and everybody's not on that same mindset, right? And so I think that's one of the toughest things is finding the balance between investing in where you came from, and really being free enough to grow. And so I
Mm-hmm.
heard this quote from a lady who kind of talked about it in reference of a garden, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so she talked about the importance of nourishing what nourishes you. And so if you think about a gardener in their garden, they're watering plants, they're raking, they're getting everything ready. But when the harvest time comes, these plants are feeding them, right?
Mm-hmm.
These plants are producing oxygen, and so they're being nourished by what they're nourishing.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes we got to be careful because if we end up nourishing stuff that isn't nourishing us, and so if you're just pouring into weeds and you're just giving everything you
Mm-hmm.
have tending to these weeds, what'll happen is you will starve the things in your life that could be
Mm-hmm.
feeding you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's tough. That's tough. I think on any level, man. I've seen it. I won't say friends, but I've had colleagues that have people that I know from where I'm from who've made it far. NFL, NBA. I just got a doctorate, so I'm not even gonna pretend like I'm on top of the world. But no matter what phase you go, you
Mm-hmm.
realize everybody can't go with you, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's tough because your heart just want to see everybody make it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you definitely can throw yourself off course if you have too much on your back.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And that's what family as well. And
Mm.
so I definitely encourage people by no means give up on people you love. But just make sure you can set a boundary between how much you love somebody and how that affects your personal life,
Mm,
right? And so as young men, we're starting to grow our families and develop relationships, and those things have to become our priority,
mm-hmm.
right? And no matter how much you want to save the world, you definitely got to take care of your home first, and that's really important.
But where do you draw that line though? Because, and I hate to use this as an example, but it's such a cliche, but around draft day, when people get drafted, it's not like, oh man, yo, like he made it. It's like, no, we made it, right? And so it's that notion that no, not only did he just get drafted, not only is he gonna be making all these millions or she, no, like we are, right? And so like people, and when I say people, I'm talking specifically about family in this instance, but people feel entitled to what you have. People feel entitled to your network. People feel entitled to your success. And people feel like without them, you would not be where you're at. So like how do you go about drawing those borders?
Right. So I think that both of us are probably very known for being very direct people, right? And I think that's a blessing and a curse. I think we've probably heard a lot of feelings, but I think clear communication is probably
Mm-hmm.
is the best thing that you can do. And letting people know where those boundaries lie.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I know for me, it's crazy because people will show you who they are, man. And so when I think about who am I investing in, sometimes it's easier than you think.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if you just took the time to say, you know what, who's called me in the last 6 months that I didn't
Mm-hmm.
call?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we make it overcomplicated and we're like, I got to do this for this person and do this for that person. But like the people who are there for you and in your corner, the list
Mm-hmm.
is very short.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? If you just think about it, sometimes you can get more calls reminding you about your expired car warranty
yeah.
than you do about people who are
Yeah.
genuinely worried about your well-being, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I just I don't get upset about stuff like that. I just put people in the
Mm-hmm.
places that they take themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really cherish, like I was kind of saying, like watering those people like you who like genuinely care about your well-being, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so whether that's with a phone call or anything, just making sure you prioritize people who are going to pour back into you. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's what keeps you full. And if relationships are broken on the back end, then sometimes, unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of life.
And sometimes, it is what it is at the end of the day.
Definitely. So this is a good transition into something that happened in the regular world. So James Harden
Mm.
recently was traded to the Nets, the Brooklyn Nets. And so we kind of know what that means in the basketball sense. And shout out to In the Bonus Podcast, another podcast I do focused on basketball. But I want to talk about it from like a pursuit of happiness type
Mm.
perspective. And so
Mm.
a lot of people have a lot to say about James Harden's choice. A lot of people have a lot to say about his process.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, he was looking to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what are kind of your thoughts? Because a lot of people will put expectations on your life.
Mm-hmm.
What is your thought behind that balance of where do you draw the line of pursuing your own personal happiness versus making those around you, whether that's your team, whether that's your
Mm-hmm.
fans, whether that's your
Mm-hmm.
family, making those people happy?
So I'm gonna answer that question in a little roundabout way, right? So every time a prospective student comes to me and they're like, Will, I really want to pursue my doctorate, or like I'm really interested in doing your program. The first question I always ask them is, why do you want to do this? And do you know what the number one answer is 9 out of 10 times? Because
What's
I
that?
want to I want to do this for my family. I want to create an avenue so my family knows that they can do. And I'm like, then you don't need to do a doctorate. And they're like, wait, what? I'm like, your family's not going to be with you at 4 a.m. in the morning when you're writing that term paper. Your family's not going to be with you stressing out about how you're going to pay for next semester's tuition. Your family's not going to be worried about all the interconnectedness of the foolishness that goes on in these programs that, aside from doing the work, doing the research, making sure you're staying on track, you also have to like facilitate all these. And so to your point, like, I'm happy for the brother. He had been in Houston for God knows how long. And unfortunately, it just wasn't a happy situation for him. And granted, they threw a ridiculous amount of money at him in Houston, but I think it's also one of those things that, one of my I have a mentor who very wealthy, private equity um owner, and like he said one day, he was like, well, I have made enough money to the point that money doesn't move me anymore, right? And so to that point, granted, I'm not there yet, but to that point, when I think about the whole James Harden situation, Houston was not making him happy. Yes, you're gonna have Stephen A. Smith, you're gonna have Shaq, you're gonna have Chuck, you're gonna have all these different people say why, oh, he's a crybaby. We gave him this, we gave him that, he can't be happy. At the end of the day, like, let's not forget, he started off his career with KD. He wanted to play with KD. He wanted to win a championship with KD. And now he has an opportunity to do so. Not to mention, in his opening debut, this man did he score like 30 some points, 15 assists, 17? Like, yo, like, he showed up. Not only did he just make the move because he selfishly wanted to make, no, like, he showed up and he did what he was supposed to do. So to that, you can't do stuff to make other people happy. I think one of the most poignant things I've ever heard in my life is Will Smith. He was in an interview and he was like, "It is not my responsibility to make Jada happy. It is not my responsibility as her husband to make her happy." And in hearing that, I sat there and I thought about it. I was like, "Yo, but isn't that what you're supposed to do as a husband?" But he was so right, because at the end of the day, you can do anything, you can go above and beyond, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. But if that other person is just fundamentally not happy with themselves, and this relates not only to spouses, excuse me, but to friends and family, if they're just not happy with themselves, there's absolutely nothing that you can do to make them happy. And so, listen, all praises be to the brother. I'm glad he made the move. I'm glad the trade was able to go through, because now not only is he going to be at a place where he's happy, but we're going to see the productivity. And it was funny because there was this whole meme about this comedian made this parody about LeBron saying, "I'm not Thanos. Why they all ganging up on me?" Yo, like, the Lakers really have some real, like granted, we all assume that the Lakers are going to come out the West. And the West for a very long time has been a dramatically better conference than the East. But now with that super team, and hopefully Kyrie gets his stuff together, yo, like, this could make for some like life altering basketball of which we've not seen.
Yeah, and I want to go back and hit on a point because you kind of touched on a few different things. I think one of the big things is looking at the difference between success versus happiness,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And so you kind of hit on like doing things for other people, whether
mm-hmm,
that's family, whether that's friends, pursuing an education. At the end of the day, even if you succeed, you all you got,
mm-hmm,
right? And so you land in your bed and you got this life. You might have got your PhD, you might have got that, but if you're not happy, it don't matter. It don't matter if you hit your financial goals. It
mm-hmm,
don't matter if you bought that house. It don't matter if you bought your mama a house. You have to live with the decisions you made. And so
mm-hmm,
it's definitely important to, as you and a lot of people don't know which way to go, and they fumble
Mhm.
their way through the process. But you
Mhm.
need to ask yourself, what is it that I truly want, right?
Mhm.
Because as a professional now, there's a lot of people who are doing well who are not happy,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And so you got to ask yourself, what does success look like? And
Mhm.
that's pretty usually a straightforward path.
Mhm.
But then you got to ask, for me personally, what does happiness look like?
Mhm.
And is there a way that I can put myself on a path to achieve both?
Mm.
You know?
But I think that's a little bit harder done than said though, because like for some people they don't know what success looks like. I mean, honestly and truthfully, I have an idea of what success looks like, but do I have a concrete like I understand that, for me success equates with financial freedom, right? Whereas for others, success might be, I got a job that pays my mortgage, puts food on my table, and puts clothes on my kids' back, and I don't care if I work till I die. For me, that's being successful. And so I think this idea or this definition of success is so varied because for different individuals, it looks very different. And I think, to your point, I don't want to reiterate what you just said, but for everybody else, you need to find that balance of what that looks like for you.
Right, right. Um, and even if you achieve it, even if you define it and you achieve it, if
Mm-hmm.
that success doesn't make you happy, right?
Mm.
So if $100,000, a house, and a family is my, if that's what I come up with as my success, if that doesn't make me happy,
Mm-hmm.
is what's the point? You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Like, what is success without happiness? Because you can,
Mm.
A plus B equals C. Like, if
Mm.
you go to college and you study really hard and you're at the top of your class, you can get a job and you can make a money and you can do all these things, the American dream, the white picket fence, all the above. But if you don't know what truly makes you happy inside,
Mm.
none of it's not gonna mean as much. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying?
Mm.
So shout out to James Harden. Definitely overkill to have those three players on the same team. But if that's what makes you, if that's what it takes for him to be happy, I think that's something he should pursue. I'm still rooting. If I would love to see them in the finals with LeBron James. It'll definitely be interesting. 36 years old. And LeBron is definitely a great example of consistency, right? And so we hear about so many good players. LeBron has been to the league to the finals 10 times.
I think it's been more than 10 now.
Like, it's insane. He's been good out like the last 15 years.
Yeah, this is his 18th season in the league.
Yeah.
But
So
I think to that point too, and I know this is not the basketball podcast, but there's certain aspects of LeBron James that I really respect, right? Like growing up, I've always been a Kobe fan. Like if you ask me, Kobe's the best player to ever touch the ball. And you can throw me the stats of Jordan, you can throw me the stats of Bill Russell, Kareem, Magic. I mean, you name it. I will argue you down that Kobe is the best player to ever step on the hardwood. But what LeBron James has been able to do, not only on the court, but also off the court, has truly like that. To me, that's what success looks like. To me, that's what success looks like because not only is he being successful in his career, he's being successful in his community with the schools that he's built, with the scholarships that he's given out in Akron, Ohio. He's been successful in the movement, in how he emerges a leader throughout all these Black Lives Matter, like everything that's been going on. And so to that brother, I really tip my hat. Well done, because there are many that have that same platform that because they're so fearful of losing what they have, they're not able to step out like that. And so to that, I truly tip my hat to you, sir.
definitely, man. LeBron is, and he don't get the credit he deserves. But that's how it goes for most legends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't get their respect until it's all over,
Mm-hmm.
it's all said and done. And so I think one day LeBron will get the respect he deserves. Unfortunately, it's just probably not going to be while he's still playing the game.
Yeah.
Um, so people probably asking. So we kind of make this reference of happiness and success.
Mm-hmm.
What can you give an example of what success or happiness looks like for you and how that may have changed based on where you are now versus where you come from?
Mm. Okay. I think for me, like I'm living in my happiness and my success, right? Because, and I had to learn that early because, you and I just had this conversation the other day. We met, this year makes 11 years since we've met, right? And I remember back to 2010, where I was then to where I'm at now. Like, I'm not the same person, right? Like, I am 29, about to turn 30, about to welcome my first son into the world, getting married, just bought a house, getting ready to buy another one. Like, like I am living my definition of what success looks like. And for me, I had to make that decision, and going back to like how we like started this episode, but I had to make that decision that like I need to enjoy my life now. Like I can't just, because some people work so hard with this ideology, like, for the next 10, 15, 20 years I'm just gonna grind, and then when I make it to like 40 or 50, then tomorrow's not promised. You don't know if today's gonna be your last day. And so for me, it's just one of those situations that, like I do understand where I came from. I do understand some of the struggles that I came up with. I do understand some of the circumstances that were around me when I was younger. And I don't take those for granted. But I've worked damn hard to get to where I am today. And I'm not ashamed of that. And nor am I gonna act humble and be like, well, no, I have worked extremely hard to be where I am today, and you better be sure that I'm going to enjoy that. And so some people can call it arrogance, some people can call it me being egotistical. Like I just call it like reaping the seeds that I sowed, right? Like going back to the biblical text, like in order to get a harvest you need to plant the seeds, right? You don't just put seeds into the ground and expect to wake up the next morning and have a flourishing of harvest. No, it takes you planting those seeds, watering those seeds, like going through drought, going through times where like some of those seeds might die, like, and that translates to like starting different businesses, starting different schools, and it not working out, but being able to pick yourself back up. And so for me, with the people I consider family, both related and just really close friends, the people that have been able to keep me abreast. Like I surround myself around people that are striving for something great, right? And so for me, that's what success looks like, because it's something that's constantly evolving. It's something that's constantly reinventing itself. Like there's no clear-cut idea of what success means, right? Like I remember, 10 years ago, I was like, by the time I'm 30, I want to be making X amount of money. I'm making that. By the time I'm 30, I want to be married with kids. I got that. By the time I'm 30, I want to be, have this certain title. I have that. Right. And so now that I've achieved all those things, do I just plateau? No, like I keep reaching for higher. All right, the next 5 years, this is what I want to do. In the next 10 years, this is what I want to do. And so for me, that's how I live my success on a daily basis. So I'll flip that question back to you.
Yeah. And before I kind of give that answer, just to kind of reemphasize something kind of will hit on is like this idea of humility, right? And so I think in our culture, a lot of times we confuse what it means to be humble, right?
Mm,
And so a lot of times in society, we feel this need to be small in order
mm,
to make others around you feel comfortable,
mm-hmm,
right? And I don't think that's what humility is all about, right? And so humility is this is what I have achieved. And when you're not humble, you use your achievements to make other people feel bad about who they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's definitely appropriate to be able to be happy, and to live in your accomplishments. As long as you're not putting other people down, you should be able to enjoy your truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so whether you at the bottom, like we've been at the bottom, we know what it's like, and we enjoyed it and we lived it then. So as we continue to work our way up, we want to continue to live in that moment, like Will said. And so it's just a process, right?
Mm-hmm.
But just for a lot of people I know who are achieving their goals, they struggle with, you know, am I not humble?
Mm.
Do I not respect where I come from because I drive this car? Am
Mm-hmm.
I too flashy? But and I definitely check out The Big Leap if you haven't checked it out. But if you're living within your means and you have a plan and you have your stuff structured in a way that you can afford the things that you do, you definitely deserve to enjoy the things that you're able to accomplish and accumulate. um and for me, I think success, and it's crazy because I don't think we're anomalies, but I think is we have very similar stories where we came up with crazy ideas of what success was, and God has literally allowed us to not, like I'm saying, like goals. I'm like, ooh, this is what I want, and it's almost at a situation where you have to say, God, do am I is my vision enough? Like
Mm-hmm.
I know you're beyond my understanding, but am I dreaming too small?
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And not to
Mm.
say we haven't had failures and have
Mm-hmm.
struggles in the process, but the big things, we've checked a lot of them. And so it causes you to reassess and say, what's next for me, right? And so we
Mm-hmm.
talked about family and marriage. And we've already found those people in our lives, and we're buying homes. And so it's definitely, I think for me, moving forward is definitely going to be continuing,
Mm-hmm.
kind of down the path that I am, to create opportunities for people, um, to grow our wealth not only for our families but for generations to come, and kind of
Mm-hmm.
definitely continue to grow. I think where we're headed is pretty good, and we'll talk about kind of different areas of where we've been working on in our lives throughout this first season. But I think it's definitely been a good journey for sure.
Definitely. And I think, just to what I want to end on is something that our good brother Reggie McCrimmon always says. If your dreams don't scare you, if they don't absolutely terrify you, you're not dreaming big enough, right? And so for those of you listening, whatever it is that you want to do, whether it's education, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's sports, dream big. And it might not happen, but you're essentially telling yourself no if you don't at least try. You're essentially denying yourself the opportunity to achieve whatever you deem as success, or you deem as fulfillment, if you don't put the first step forward. And so with that being said, dream big.
Yeah.
Listen, reach for the stars, and if you fall, you land in the clouds.
Hey, and we used to, what we always told ourselves, you ain't got nothing better else to do
You ain't got
anyway.
nothing better else to do anyways.
Name something better than being your best self. I can't
Mm-hmm.
think of it.
Nope.
So with that, we're gonna wrap it up. We thank you guys for listening to Just Another Podcast, and hope you know that this is definitely more than just another podcast. So until next time, peace. This podcast was brought to you by Optical Illusions Photography and Media. Let us capture your best moments in the perfect way.